Thank you very much for everything, Abraham. I've been a lot happier since I started listening to you. So I've heard you talk about that the vibrational manifestation is 99.999% of everything. And it's there as soon as I have a desire, shoot off the rocket of desire. Recently, I've heard a couple of other sources, one being a scientist that talked about the nature of existence, I guess. And he said that what we usually consider empty space is not empty at all. It's the fullness of infinite energy, consciousness. And he's made the claim that the world I interact with, the physical world, what I see, what I manifest, is something like 0 point, and then 5 zeros and a 1% of what there is. And the consciousness part that I don't see is 99.59% of what there is. And he talked about how things get created. They just get called out of this energy and given form. Now, where my question comes in is, like, how big of a role does action play? It would seem from his point of view, and sometimes when I listen to you, that action is really a very, much smaller part than I normally think it is.
Well, we'll put it to you this way, and here's a good definition. We've not offered this before, but you're calling it out. Action is the dabbling in the specifics of the manifestation. In other words, the action part of it is, for the most part, let us back up and be very clear about this. For the most part, most people are offering action instead of offering stable vibration. So most people are offering most of their action in order to compensate for the energy that went awry earlier because they were not aware of it in the earlier subtle stages. So if you're not aware of what you're doing vibrationally in the early subtle stages, and you've begun attracting something that there's a momentum coming, and when the grid fills in, there is a momentum. And it doesn't matter what grid it is that's filling in, there's always a momentum. So a lot of people use their action in order to try to compensate for the momentum because they weren't paying attention to what they were doing earlier. It's sort of like the cast on your arm is sort of like that. That was action that you applied after the fact because you weren't paying attention to what you were doing vibrationally before.
Yeah, and I can see where I can, at least in retrospect, see where I do that. And one place where I think I have some difficulty with the application of that is in, my wife and I run a little business. We're relationship trainers, and I really like it when, going back to what the gentleman first talked about, the general specific, I feel so great when I can be general. Like when I can have the bird's eye view of everything, it feels like, there's a wonderful flow and things come in. But I also feel in the day-to-day running of our business, I'm forced to attend to a whole lot of detail and specifics. There's so many little wheels turning.
It is so delicious, though, to do the grid work first. And we'll be talking a lot about that as we're moving through these days together. To do the grid work first. And then, as the grid is filling in, the action is inspired. If you've been listening to us for a while, we've been saying this for years, that if you tune in, tap in, turn on to the energy, and then do whatever you feel inspired to do. Not motivated. Motivated is trying to fix it when it's going wrong. Inspired is when the vortex is calling you toward it. That's that feeling of inspiration. And it's that feeling that you know the rightness of it. You just can't hardly stop yourself from doing it. It feels so right to you. Where the motivation is, I need to do that. That's that obligated thing. And we know there are plenty of things. You are a very busy bunch. You live in a world that is more interconnected than ever before, and you have more details that are flowing through your life experiences. If we were standing in your physical shoes, we would not integrate so specifically with so many people so much of the time. Because just your awareness of what's going on, just your Facebook wall alone can distract you from the core of who you are. And at the very least, we would set a vibrational tone of our intentional broadcasting, and we would not just let anything be posted to our wall.
So I see that when I'm taking, you could say, unaligned action from motivation, I can see how that helps me line up, because at some point, I get tired of that, and it doesn't feel. So, is there any difference between doing that to line up, or might I as well do nothing until it feels completely inspired?
Sometimes we would like to say to you, just get aligned and then follow your inspiration. And then people say, so you're saying don't go to work, do not give my kids a bath, and do not make my bed, do not mow my lawn, do not do any of those things that I feel responsible to do. And we say, well, the thing about that is that when you don't do what you said that you would do, then usually it gets worse. In other words, because not doing something is taking action too. Ooh, not doing it is an action too. Whether you do it or don't do it, you're taking the action not to do it, just like you're taking the action to do it. Have you noticed how difficult it is not to do something? Jerry used to say to Esther, honey, do not pick up that suitcase. So she would stand there, and the bellman was a bellwoman who was this tall. And Esther is standing there, and she is trying to pick up Esther's suitcase. And Esther is thinking, there's no way in the world that I am not going to help this little person pick up my suitcase. In other words, non-action is more difficult sometimes than action. You want to do what you're inspired to do. Don't make decisions about what you're not going to do, and don't make a lot of decisions about what you are going to do. Make decisions about how you're going to feel, and then do anything you feel like doing. And you're going to discover you're going to be way more active in your aligned state. Way more action is going to occur to you, you see. So then we want to say that since you have different vibrations going on relative to different subjects, and often with a business, there are things that you just need to do. You have responsibilities, and you can't just not do them. But you could do a better job of doing your vibrational work first. And by that we mean meditate more often. We would every single day. We would take the time to quiet our mind. We just would, because that is the easiest way to sort of clear out the vibrational clutter. And then we would make lists of positive aspects, and we would make them about things that are really easy to make them about. We would not be trying to create with our positive aspect book. We would be genuinely tuning ourselves to the frequency of what feels good. So we would pick the easiest things in our life that make us always feel good when we think about them, and we would fill the pages of our book with only that. And then we would look for reasons to appreciate it as often as possible, and then we would do everything else that we feel like we need to do. The best process that we've ever offered for this, Esther was in a sort of fit of frustration with too much to do. And Jerry and Esther were sitting in a restaurant, and they had paper placemats in front of them. And Esther said, Abraham, I don't know what to do. She was sitting there overwhelmed with her list, which was pages and pages and pages long. And so we just encouraged her to draw a line down the middle of the placemat. And we said, on the left side, write, universe, take care of these things. And on the right side, write, I will take care of these things. And then we encouraged Esther to write what she wanted the universe to take care of. And so she made a list, and it was quite a general list. It was quite a general list, because she wasn't thinking in terms of the universe washing the car today. Right. She wasn't thinking in terms of the universe doing those things. It didn't compute in her mind. So she wrote general things like help so-and-so feel better, and help this situation sort of resolve itself. And she just put general things on that side of the list. And we encouraged her to go through her list and pick out the things that she really needed to do, and then put everything else on the universal side of the placemat. Well, so she did. She went down. It took almost an hour after they had finished their meal for Esther to transfer everything to the placemat. And on her side were only 4 things. And we said, do those 4 things. Say to yourself, I'm going to do them. It was something like make a bank deposit, and they were important things that really needed to be done that day. So she accomplished those 4 things, and with relative ease. And to her astonishment, several of the things on the universe's side of the placemat happened without her attention to them. And then she was off and running. What this placemat process actually does is it teaches you to let go. It teaches you to let go of the angst, because she only chose the things that she felt were manageable. And in her new decision to only do this much, what she accomplished, which is far more important to the list than anything else, she accomplished a vibrational grid that allowed the universe to do what it's always wanting to do. And the placemat process simply got Esther out of the way, you see.
Yes.
You're following?
Yes.
Mostly what we'd like to say to you is go do what you need to do and be happy more. And chill more. Have more fun. Look for more reasons to feel good. And don't try so hard. Now that stretcher team should go. Even if they don't want to, they should go right now. Good time for a segment of refreshment.
Thank you.